Alright, hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast Doug. In today's episode I'm going to be discussing Sunday, Week 8 of the 2023 edition. More specifically, 3 games from the Sunday slate of action. So on tap for this episode we have the Saints versus the Colts, the Chiefs versus the Broncos, and the Bengals versus the 49ers. And with that, we'll go ahead and dive right into it, starting with the New Orleans Saints, who made some improvements on offense in this game. The Saints' inability to consistently score touchdowns, particularly after driving the ball, came to a head after last week's loss to the Jaguars. The mood is very different now in New Orleans after a 38-point outburst against the Colts, according to Jeff Junkin of the Times-Picayune. I butchered that. But anyway, according to Jeff Duncan here, New Orleans 583 yards from scrimmage are the most by a team in nearly 3 years. Rashid Shaheed, his vertical speed served as a huge weapon with 153 yards and 3 receptions. Alvin Kamara's expanded usage in the passing game adds another dynamic, 142 receiving yards over the past couple games. Overall, the Saints offense scored 4 touchdowns during 5 trips in the red zone. So hopefully this is a sign of things to come. Hopefully New Orleans offense is starting to turn things around because they have the defense to do it. They have the offense, the talent on offense to perform well. Their defense is playing well. New Orleans could be a good football team. They just gotta have some consistency on offense, and they showed that here in this game against the Colts. Speaking of which, for the Colts, well, that secondary is falling apart due to inexperience, mainly at the cornerback position. So injuries happen, and secondary depth can be difficult to obtain. Yet the Colts aren't even fielding what looks like an NFL caliber group of defensive backs. When a defensive coordinator's philosophy is to keep the ball in front of defenders, squeeze throwing lanes, and force opponents into mistake, well, that scheme can work, but not with inexperienced defenders with mental and physical, as the inexperience leads to mental and physical breakdowns. Hence, the Saints passing for 350 yards. The Colts made a conscious choice to go younger this season, particularly at cornerback. The organization wanted to see what it had in Dallas Flowers, Darrell Baker Jr., and rookies Juju Brents and Chandler Jones. Well, Flowers tore his Achilles, so he's out for the year. Baker got benched, but then reinserted into the lineup because of injuries. Brents pulled his quad and is currently nursing that. Outside of veteran Kenny Moore, who's better suited at the nickel position, the team is a dumpster fire at quarterback. With the season now teetering on the edge of the 3 straight losses, something should be done at corner, or Indianapolis is just going to have to accept the fact that they'll be drafted in the top 10 next year. At a minimum, Chris Ballard, the general manager, should take a look to see if the Colts can strengthen their secondary through the trade. The trade deadline is coming up. But yeah, clearly inexperience at cornerback kind of got Indy here, kind of caused Indy to backfire. Gardner had himself a good game. I don't think he had as many turnovers as he did last week, and certainly the officiating appeared to be a little bit, from what I've seen. I haven't really looked too deep into this game, but yeah, I think this. Yeah, so officiating was better. Gardner and Minshew played better, less turnovers, but that secondary though becoming an issue. Kansas City Chiefs. So turnovers are a problem. That's a universal thing for all teams, but for Kansas City, it's an issue that they must address. Yes, Patrick Mahomes came into the game under the weather, but the Chiefs also came into the game with 11 turnovers in 8 weeks, which was tied for the 8th most across the league. With Mahomes battling the flu, the Chiefs had to do a better job of taking care of the ball, and they didn't do it. Aside from Mahomes, Marquez Valdez-Scantling and McCall Hardman both lost fumbles. When healthy, Mahomes will rebound just fine, but Kansas City should use the sloppy 5-turnover loss to emphasize a focus on ball security moving forward. The Chiefs have had multiple turnovers in 5 of their 8 games this season. Even with Mahomes at 100%, the Chiefs are going to struggle against top teams if they're going to continue to give the ball away at their current rate. So yes, turnovers, it's a problem, for any team, but for the Chiefs in particular, this is one of their biggest issues that they gotta look at addressing. I'm not gonna read too much more into this loss against the Broncos, but those turnovers aren't corrected though. This could be a sign of things to come. Denver Broncos. So is the season turning around for the Broncos? Well, So, recently it looks like it has, as the Broncos have won consecutive games and snapped a 16-game losing streak to the Chiefs. The Broncos pressured and picked off Mahomes, who battled the flu going into the game, but despite Mahomes' illness, Denver's defense should still get some credit for their performance. Weeks ago, this Denver defense was giving up 70 points to the Dolphins and 28+ points to the Bears and Jets, but Denver has since then allowed an average of 15 points over its past 3 games, one of those matchups coming against a healthy Patrick Mahomes. Offensively, the Broncos have embraced the running game, averaging 138 yards on the ground over the past 4 contests. Meanwhile, Russell Wilson, the numbers might not be the most flashy, but he's efficient in the pocket, which is 2 interceptions since week 4, 3 and 5 with solid play on both sides of the ball. Denver is gaining some momentum going into the second half of the season, so it certainly does look like things are turning around for Denver. Now, whether or not it's going to matter in the end in terms of playoff implications, we shall see, but it can't hurt to start playing better and picking up wins. Cincinnati Bengals, and Joe Burrow is looking better than ever. So Joe Burrow is officially back. Well, technically he never left, but he was not the same to start the season, returning to the lineup after suffering a strained calf muscle during training camp. At the beginning of the season, the Bengals offense, more specifically Burrow, didn't look right. The quarterback couldn't move in the pocket or drive through his throws. The Bengals offense just couldn't function. And a 1-3 start to the season is what resulted. However, Burrow continued to slowly improve each week, and in Sunday's victory over the 49ers, he looked fully uninjured. The 4th-year quarterback completed 87.5% of his passes throughout the contest, including 19 straight completions, and connected regularly with number 1 receiver Jamar Chase 10 times for 100 yards. But the moment he was able to avoid the rush and extended play in the first quarter was the true definition of the real, or became the real true definition of the real Joe Burrow being back. Dating back to his final year at LSU, Burrow's feel for the pocket was one of his best traits, still is his best trait, and that was on display again Sunday, and the team, well, it's off to the races here for the Cincinnati Bengals. They're back. They never left. But they're back. San Francisco 49ers. So the losing streak continues now up to 3 games, and there certainly is some warranted concern over the play of quarterback Brock Purdy. So at the beginning of October, head coach Kyle Shanahan disregarded any insinuation that Brock Purdy wasn't playing as well as the numbers indicated because he was a beneficiary of the offensive scheme. The coach's assessment now, though, isn't quite as glowing after the Niners have lost 3 straight, and Purdy committed 3 more turnovers after giving the ball away 3 times during the previous 2 weeks. The mistakes are piling up, as are the losses. Now, Purdy can make plays, as Shanahan has stated before, but when those plays are negated by poor decisions, well, they're not going to matter as much. The 49ers aren't going to reach their potential until Purdy gets back on track and they start taking better care of the ball and making better decisions. But even when he does, I don't know if anybody was expecting him to be an MVP caliber player before, but I think we could certainly but if they were, you can certainly pump the brakes on that. I wouldn't say San Francisco is out of it just yet, but it's not looking good for them. But I still think this team has the coaching and the talent to turn it around. And with that will conclude this episode of NFL Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.